Welcome to Chill Under Pressure. I'm Rodney.
I'm Les.
And I'm Adam. And today we have Kate from Hudson with us. Hi, Kate.
Hey, everyone. How you doing?
Good.
Doing well. And you?
Doing fantastic. We are in the heat of the summer here in New York, New Jersey. I think right now outside it's about 106 degrees, so I'm glad to be on Chill Under Pressure right now.
Because that epitomizes it right there.
That's about what it is in Phoenix right now. I don't even know New York got that hot.
Oh, those are fighting words coming from Arizona.
You have the humidity too, at least the dry heat here. At least that's what they tell me.
Yeah. That's what they say, but it is awfully humid. But one of the first things I ever say to new employees who join Hudson is we never complain about the heat here. It's good for business. So
That's right.
That's right.
Yeah, hot summer's a good summer.
That's right.
Exactly right.
Every summer. Well, it's great to have you on. Thank you for joining us. We've been looking forward to having this conversation with you.
Yeah,
So-
me too. I mean, a couple of like-minded organizations committed to Reclaim. So interesting to see where we headed to on the conversation.
Right. That's right. It's actually cool. Recently, we partnered up with Reef, and you guys are partnered up with Reef, and we're doing some cool things together too, independently with Hero and Hudson. And so we've gotten to spend a lot of time with you and your team. So it's been great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool.
Hey, do you want to do like an introduction and your background and stuff before we jump in?
Yeah, we
Sure.
should do that.
We should do that. Yeah.
We should do that.
All right.
Okay, let's go ahead. So I'm Kate Houghton. I'm the Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Hudson. I've been with Hudson for just, I think next week or the week after is 13 years. So proof that time flies when you're having fun. I have spent those years in the refrigerant recovery reclamation business. By way of background, I'm a mechanical engineer. I did my engineering and my marketing back in Australia. You might detect a little bit of an accent. They tell me it's going away, but I think it's always going to be here for a while.
I thought it was Texas, but now that makes sense.
Exactly. I came to the US on a 2-year contract. So I was going to come be a product manager. I was working in fire suppression at the time. I was going to come for 2 years. I was going to learn everything. I was going to take it back to Australia. Somewhere in that last 25 years, the return ticket never got booked, and so I've been here. I've been here all that time. So wicked excited to chat to you guys, and we are doing a lot of stuff together, and really, some pretty cool things.
Yeah, it's exciting. Well, one of the things like I've been thinking about is, I have a bit of a Reclaim background as well. But I was noticing in a lot of the written communications and a lot of the other podcast things that are out there that people get the 3 R's wrong, that they don't really even understand what Reclaim is. And so while this will be really elementary for you, I think it'd be fun to have you like walk us through like what is it that a reclaimer does? Like what does Hudson do?
Yeah, it's really fun.
That's too broad. What does Hudson
we've got
do?
about 3 days, right, to kind of keep that in.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
I have to make it good for when my boss is listening that we do something here. So it is a great question though, because we hear, and even I can get a little bit lazy about it. Everything in our industry is called Reclaim. Everything's a Reclaim program. Everybody's sending Reclaim. Everybody has got reclaimed refrigerant. And the reality is that's the only time something becomes a reclaimed pound of refrigerant is after an EPA certified reclaimer has processed it and then actually certified it. So it's kind of there is a lot that goes into it. So really at the core of our business is working with system owners, technicians, contractors, wholesalers, that whole OEMs even, that whole ecosystem and all the stakeholders to start with ensuring that the pound of refrigerant comes out of a unit, right? And so it's captured and put into a recovery cylinder. Step one, because nothing happens in the reclamation industry. Hudson can't do a thing if that pound doesn't actually go into a cylinder to start that journey.
Yeah, I think that we've lived that too in our past life at Rapid, and
Yeah.
I think people miss that. They're like, oh, we need more reclaim. Well, how do it doesn't come, you can't reclaim it back out of the air.
Right.
So
Right.
if you let it into the air, it's not coming back down into a bottle to be put back out in the market. And so I think it is really. I love that you do that often. You really go back to the heart of it, which is if you don't suck the stuff out of a unit and capture it, it can't be reclaimed.
Yeah,
and
it's
that's
not
the start of the process. That's
right. And it's not the hundreds of pounds, right? It's the pound.
Mm-hmm.
It's the half a pound. And
Every
it starts
ounce
there.
counts.
Every ounce counts.
Every
And
ounce
you had I think I commented on your LinkedIn when you were with Clifton, talking about the recovery and how every technician holds the fate of future service gas in their hands on every system they go to. And someone in your family or your friend or someone you don't know who's got, small kids or whatever, they're just in a position where they need that service gas and they can't get it because it never got recovered out of the small system.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a very
powerful
way for you to present that on that podcast you did with Clifton.
Yeah, it really is, when you put it into human terms, right? And you think about the number of systems out in the field, right? Just in the US and in service, the aging nature of the systems that are out there, it really is that basic, that there are people who will need that refrigerant. There are people who need R22. I happen to be one of them. I got a 33-year-old R22 system at home.
So if you're watching this, it's time to target Kate for an
I live at an undisclosed location, and the unit is hidden behind the bushes, so no one can find it.
So it's not even getting good convincing.
It's not going to get airflow anymore. It's been hidden by
the 22 and the copper's worth something at this point, right?
That's right.
But the only way anybody with an R22 system, you can't make it, you can't produce it, you can't import it. The only way someone like me or someone like the probably, 20 million systems of 22 that are still out there can be serviced is by the technician each and every time making a conscious choice. And I think that's really empowering for a technician as well to think about their role and how much positive influence they can have on the whole chain, really, at the end of the day. And I think it becomes so, it's one thing that often doesn't get thought about or doesn't get the recognition. Mm-hmm. That technicians really, they have a hard job, out in the fields in the heat of the summer, climbing through the attic, going into the basement, in the crawl spaces. That's a tough job. And we don't recognize that, and we don't thank them for every pound, but it is every single pound, every single ounce. It's important, and it's going to become even more important.
Well, we might be a little cliche about it, but we named our company FM Hero because the heroes in the field are the start of the process, and that's where that came from. It's all about those technicians in the field.
Yeah. When you break that down too, it's about stewardship of what's already out there, right? Be a good steward, get that product back in. It has no shelf life. It can continue to be used over and over and over again through the reclamation process. And, just being a good steward allows more people to have operational systems with service gases.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, we've just convinced everyone that's out there to recover. So now they've got this gas. What's the next step in the process?
Exactly. So now they've got cylinders full of recovered gas, and they contact somebody like Hudson. They might work through a local wholesaler, or they contact a reclaimer like us. And what we will do next is we have an online portal. So we say, go in here, tell us how many cylinders you have, tell us where they are. Depending on the kind of technician or contractor, we might go to the job site. So if it's maybe a larger system and there's multiple cylinders, we might go pick them directly up from the job site. If it's, all taken back and consolidated because the contractor technician's got 5 vans, we'll go to the warehouse. We go to a lot of single owner operated technician companies and pick up from the driveway. It doesn't have to be fancy, but we'll go out and we'll get those cylinders. We take them back to our plants. We have 3 locations around the country: California, Illinois, and Georgia. So we'll route those cylinders to wherever the closest location is. Within 2 days of the cylinders arriving at our facility, we've shipped back an equal quantity of those cylinders, empty, in hydro date, under vacuum sealed and freshly painted, so that they can go back the technician, the contractor can go back and do the next recovery and the next recovery and the next recovery. So keeping those cylinders in perpetual motion is something that's really important, because if they're not going back out into the field, then they can't do the next recovery. So kind of that logistics element is a big piece of what we do.
Yeah, it's hard to do on a onesie, twosie cylinder moment, right? I mean, you're talking about a 50-pound recovery cylinder or two 30-pounders or whatever the number is, but it can be big quantities, right? You could show up and there could be, 10 half tons or some large volume. But you guys aren't just going after that big stuff. You're working with everyday contractors who, might have only a few cylinders, 4 or 5 cylinders, right?
Believe it or not, we will pick up one single 30-pound cylinder, and we won't charge. Wow. We won't charge freight. We won't charge anything. Wow. So we'll pick up one single cylinder and we'll ship back one single cylinder, and that's at no cost. And we're hoping to pay the technician, the contractor, for the gas that's in that cylinder.
Well, and I don't want to pick on the wholesalers because I know they're your clients. So, okay, I'll pick on the wholesalers so that you don't have to, because I know some of them are your clients. But I mean, one of the challenges that the contractors have, the technicians, that's maybe single operator, whatever, is that they're paying a lot of times at the wholesaler to do a swap. Right? They might be charged $35 to exchange that cylinder. And I feel for them because I don't think that they're aware of that they can kind of go direct to market. And I think, unfortunately, the wholesalers who are still charging are kind of missing the opportunity here, that they could be helping the entire ecosystem out by not trying to grab that extra $35, but by sitting in the middle, there's still money to be made for them. They're encouraging people to come in and buy the products, and they don't even have to use it as a loss leader. I mean, there's the opportunity for them to profit from it. It's hard to watch when you see that happening, and you're like, but there's so much more value to that material. It's not just a cost center to you as a contractor. And I think, Hudson's doing a great job of proving that out by doing that one cylinder at a time. So should be applauded for that.
Thanks. And we want to make it as easy as possible. As you say, we work with a lot of wholesalers, and the really successful wholesalers are the ones who share in the profitability, right? And so, we encourage every wholesaler to really think about their place in this chain, because again, getting access to reclaimed refrigerant as virgin production, as virgin importation decreases, your proportion of how much you're bringing in is proportionally kind of what you'll be able to access later on. So if you're charging and someone's going somewhere else, that has an impact on your business in the medium term as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I was listening to you talk about the shipping in 2 days, sending stuff out. So it speaks about the efficiency of getting cylinders in, getting them tested, right, and getting them emptied, and then getting them prepped to go back out. What's that process look like for you guys?
Yeah, so when the cylinders hit our dock, we check in every single cylinder. We record the cylinder serial number. We test every single cylinder for refrigerant type. And what we're testing is the type of refrigerant and the purity. And we do that generally within about 24 hours that the cylinder hits our dock. So it comes in and we know where it came from, what the serial number is, what the refrigerant type is, what the purity is. And then we're moving that through our facility. We'll group like refrigerants. So all the 410A at a particular purity level will go here, and the 410A at a different purity level will go there, and the 22 will go left, and the 134A will go right. Because what we're going to do is process them in batches, whether it needs single plate distillation because it's 99.5%, and all we're going to do is remove the impurities like water, oil, particulate, or whether it needs more heavy processing. Let's say it came in and it was 82% purity, and we're going to do fractional distillation on it. So within that kind of 24-hour period, we know what we've got. We start to prepare the documentation to send that back to the customer to say, hey, here's what you sent, and here's how much we're going to pay you for it. And then we're dispersing it through our facilities to then ultimately process it fairly quickly as well.
So you said single plate distillation, then, probably a lot of our folks are going to go, I have no idea what she just said. It sounded like a barrel of fish. So at its root form, and then fractional distillation through a separation column. I mean, that's like exponentially more complex. But on its base level, what is reclaim? So what are you doing? You're just running it through, a filter dryer, like what we can get at the local wholesaler? Is it, a pool filter, maybe, something like that? What does it look like? I mean, physically, what does it look like, and how does it work? What are you doing?
Yeah. So a really great analogy for that 99.5. So at 99.5s, you guys know the refrigerant meets AHRI purity spec. So it's in balance. It's got the right component in the right ratio. It's got the right purity. The issue is it's probably got too much moisture. It's got too much oil. It's come back through the return. Maybe it's picked up particulate. Maybe it wasn't, run through a filter dryer when it was recovered. So in that case, the best kind of analogy is it's almost like putting it into a whiskey still. We're literally going to treat that like moonshiners, right?
And I love it.
And put it into it's like the equivalent of a still, and we're going to boil off things like moisture. We're going to separate out the oil. We're going to drop that out. We're going to take the particulate out, and at the end, you don't want to drink it like a good jug of moonshine, but you're going to have good refrigerant at the end.
And you got to make sure you don't drink the stuff that'll make you go blind, right?
Yes.
So reclaiming is legal moonshining.
It's legal moonshining. Well, no wonder you're used to hiding things like at your house. You're like with your unit hidden back there. You just admitted publicly you're distilling refrigerant like moonshine. Tell us about your moonshine experience, Kate.
Yes. It really is.
Copperhead Road music right here.
Yeah. And then when we talk about fractional distillation, it's in that case the refrigerant has come in, and let's use a really easy example. So R22 has come back to us, and let's say it's 85% pure, because somewhere along the line, either in the recovery cylinder or in the unit, it's been crossed with 410A. Someone's decided, or any one of the blends that like were R22 replacements. So probably again, what's interesting for the listeners is in a 30-pound cylinder, 1 pound of a different type of refrigerant crosses the entire other 29 pounds, right? So it only takes a little bit to then have your whole mix be crossed. So
which could just be what's in the recovery machine still. So we didn't purge out the recovery machine.
Exactly. You did 410A last time. You're doing 22 now. You didn't purge your lines. Now you've got some cross refrigerant. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So in that case, what we have to do is really separate the refrigerant. And so fractional distillation is about using heating and cooling and heights of towers. And kind of everybody at Hudson laughs. I'm a mechanical engineer, so they know that I know what I'm talking about. But I'll say, let's throw it up the column. And let's throw that refrigerant up the column, because kind of, again, literally that's what we do. We send the refrigerant up the column using, chemistry principles to separate out the elements. So to take out the 410A from the 22, and you'll end up with two streams. And then at that point, you can distill that to get your 99.5% 410A and 22.
So, just to be clear, I don't know how to ask this question, but just to highlight one of the things you're talking about is everything gets, when you say 85%, you're talking about 15% of some other kind of refrigerant, like in your example, 410A, and 85% R22. Before you even talk about like those, or before that fractional distillation process happens, where you're doing all this magic chemistry and throw it up a column or tower, you have to do the distillery, the moonshine distillery first, right? You got to get the oil, the moisture, the particular. So you clean it all, even if it's not like good, can't be reused yet, and then you say, now do I go further with this? Does this need additional processing, right?
That's exactly it. That's exactly right. Yeah, we clean everything. We take all of the impurities out, so all of the oil, the moisture, the particulate, rust, anything that's traveled along with the refrigerant. Exactly right. Do all of that step, and then we'll take it. If it's not 99.5, we'll take it in the separation.
Got it. So there was an old, this is off topic, but I love this line. There was an old expression in the industry, dilution is the solution. And
you're familiar with it.
So just so everybody knows, what the idea was is that you'd buy in, import in virgin new manufactured product, and you would mix it together with the same like product of something, let's say maybe it was 95% or 97% or even lower, and you would mix enough pounds of the brand new stuff that's 100% with the 95% stuff to get it all to be 99.5. Is that, first off, is that still really going on, or is that kind of the end of the road happened with that at this point?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'll speak for Hudson. So when we reclaim refrigerant, and we actually have a particular brand, so we call our reclaim refrigerant Emerald refrigerants. You guys might have seen it on the boxes or seen it on the website. So we track
Yep.
all of our pounds, and we follow that through. We follow the CARB definition, which is now an EPA AMAC definition as well, which is that no more than 15% of that refrigerant can be newly manufactured. And the reason that sometimes you'll see that is kind of back to when I talked about purity and composition. So let's take 410A. It's 125 and 32. You could have 410A that's 99.5% purity, but there's more 32 than there should be and less 125 than there should be. So it can be out of balance. If you've ever, I'm sure you guys have heard that. So it can be out of balance for composition, but still within purity. In that case, we might add, let's say, just use silly numbers, we might add a pound of 125 to bring the balance back and keep it in purity. But
Makes sense.
to make
But then you
it,
got to still be under that 85 or that 15% thing that you're talking
absolutely.
about.
So, and only when it's necessary, right? So there's a lot of refrigerant comes back and it's in balance or it's single component and it doesn't require that 15%. But that's why CARB wrote that into their protocol a few years ago when OEMs were required to utilize reclaimed refrigerant to meet the requirements, and SB 1206 and in the AMAC, so that you can't take the extreme example, which is 100 pounds of newly manufactured refrigerant, throw in 1 pound of reclaim and call 101 pounds reclaim.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
You really want the definition to limit, and we were actually, as Hudson, very passionate about that, to limit that so that when you're buying reclaimed refrigerant, you're buying reclaimed refrigerant.
Yeah, I think it was a really cool thing, honestly, that they did that, right? They're saying, hey, we want the service gas to be this gas. And that's a kind of a bold step. And then to be wise enough, obviously with some industry insight from folks like yourself, but to be wise enough to say, we have to protect the integrity of what is a pound of reclaimed refrigerant and give it a really clear definition.
With that, though, that you said they wrote that rule on the 15%. That does affect the availability of service gases when you eliminate people's ability to bring in, and just solution is a solution, right? I mean, it's going to affect the supply of service gas, therefore highlighting the more importance of recovering every pound.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is that correct? Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we've talked about it before. Now states and certain applications are phasing in and or needing reclaimed refrigerant. In the state of California, anything over 2200 GWP has to be reclaimed. You can't sell it, you can't use it, you can't possess it. The comment, the statement can't be in commerce in the state of California. State-owned buildings in California, you need to use reclaimed 410A. If it's a state facility, you can't use newly manufactured 410A in the state of California for a government building. Again, not only is the overall market need and the allocations and the virgin starting to come down, but also now you've got folks in advance or locations or governments or, even customers, even end users now saying, I specifically want reclaimed refrigerant because it's got better environmental properties. And all of that is placing more and more demand on reclaim and escalating the importance of every single pound.
Right. And what is if you just took the average over the last decade, 2 decades, how much refrigerant as a percentage is coming back into reclaim?
Yeah, great question. So I'll talk specifically because the EPA did some data analysis, and it's about 3 years old now, so the reclaim volume has grown a little bit. But the EPA compared the aftermarket sales of HFC specifically, not anything else, the HFC sector, and then compared the reclaimed pounds that were reported that same year, because EPA requires participants to report their volumes on the sale and on the buyback. There's some nuance to it, but
so meaning reclaimers, you guys.
Reclaimers, yeah. but any allowance holder has to also do some reporting about their inventory levels and sales levels and things like that. So they took the outbound sales into the aftermarket, and then they looked at the recovered and reclaimed pounds coming back in. And at the time, it was 1.6% of the sales volume was being reclaimed in that year. So it's a few years ago. So we're probably 3-4% at this point. But I'd say there's a long way to go. And if you compare it to the peak of R22 reclamation, there's at least a 4 or 5 times growth that we should be able to get to really quickly on HFCs. If you just do the same math about when R22 is at the peak of its use and peak of recovery and reclamation.
So, I mean, if you think about that, though, you're talking about like, let's call it 5%. Let's be super generous with where it is today. I mean, it sounds like it's less than that. But that means 95% of the gas that you need, you won't have. Like, I mean, realistically, if only 5% is being recovered and sent back to reclamation, and you need service gas, and if that trend doesn't change, 95% of the time you're not going to have gas, right?
Yeah, it's probably not 95, but it's a big number, right? These systems are supposed to be closed loop, right? So how many systems in a year are going to get service? How many have a service call? But the number is still staggering. Is it that 50% of the systems need 2 pounds a year? Is it, you could do all kinds of math. It's a staggering number.
It's a staggering shortfall.
Exactly.
That's really what it comes down to.
We'll not have that. Yeah.
And then you're going to go to try to replace your system, and you're not going to be able to. I mean, I'm guessing you might have a good contact on where you could find some R22. But outside of you specifically, if you have an R22 system or in a few years a 410A system, and you need it to be serviced, and really the unit itself, it might not be, maybe it's not 35 years old, maybe your unit's only 7 years old. Should have a lot of useful life left. And yet because that contractor doesn't have access to that type of refrigerant, that 410A maybe in this example, they're now trying to sell you a whole new system. And you're like, I just put this thing in. Like, it just needs service. Help me out here, man. And that's the thing that scares me a little bit, that we're forcing folks to buy new equipment when that's not necessary. And that's never been the intent anyway. I mean, yes, we want a technological transition, but it's not to take perfectly good equipment and rule it out and bring it out of the market either.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. And the role that Reclaim Refrigerant plays is to really be the bridge in that transition. You should be able to buy a 410A. Remember, people are still buying 410A units this year because they can still be installed. Right. And there's a lot of sales happening now. That the industry and the market is rapidly shifting to, there's not a ton of 410A left, but people could still buy a 410A unit this year and have. Yeah. You expect to get 15 years. I mean, I speak kindly to my R22 system every day when I go to work and when I come home. But if I have to replace that and I bought 410A, I want 15 or 20 years out of that. That's what I expect as my investment, to come back in 5 or 7 years and say, here's another $20,000 that you have to replace it. Shame on us as an industry if we get to that point where we're forcing, homeowners and folks to make that choice because we can't help them. Right.
And, it's nice to sit in our position and go, well, that's what we have to do. But there's an awful lot of people who the choice then is, I don't have air conditioning.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And because they just flatly can't afford another new unit. Like, there's only so much money to go around. And so I really feel for that. I feel like as an industry, we need to do better.
Especially
we really just need to do better.
Yeah. The solutions are in place.
Right.
Like, it's not like you just started. It's a very doable thing. Right. The people who are going to complain about the price of refrigerant or the availability of refrigerant are the ones who didn't recover it. Right. Like, and like you said, you want to pay them for it. So, A, they charge to recover it. That's nothing wrong with that. They're going to sell the recovered refrigerant and make money on that. And then they're going to be able to get it. Like, if you want price stability and availability, recover every pound.
Yeah.
Send it, get paid for it. You're already charged for it. So it's this, but then down the road, they're like, I mean, through all the transitions, we've seen it, right? Oh, I can't believe how much it went. Well, that's because it didn't get put back in the pipeline, because as an industry, we do 5% of recovered gets back into reclamation.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous.
Which is ridiculous.
It's just ridiculous.
It is. And then, one of the things that is part of our education we talk about a lot is when you're recovering refrigerant, you're getting paid, you're subsidizing your next purchase.
Yeah.
Right? So you really are becoming part of your own supply chain, and you're being paid as part of your own supply chain, right? You sell a pound of 410A to Hudson, you buy a pound, 4 weeks from now, well, you kind of got money that went towards that purchase that you had to make.
That's right.
Yeah, how many
and
contractors are
existed
just
too?
yeah?
It's all of it, right?
How many of them are just taking their copper and grinding it up into oblivion and not sitting it in and getting paid for it?
I know all the
Right?
contractors I know. They just open the tailgate, drive down the road,
Just
let the copper
go,
fall
right?
out.
Like go dump that in a river or something.
Is that
So-
dump?
So it's the same thing. It has value. It goes back into the supply chain and it comes back to you just like copper.
Yeah, and that's a perfect example of what we talk to technicians when we're out doing training. You don't step over a piece of copper. It all goes in the bag and it all goes with you to get that value. There's probably as much value in the refrigerant that you're recovering from that unit than the copper you're picking up on the ground. So double your income.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
I'm looking at our clock, and we're getting towards the end of our session. And Kate, like, we just pummeled you with questions, but is there like a message or something outside of this that you're like, I really want people to know this thing about Kate or about Hudson or about your unit,
Fractional distillation.
fractional distillation, or your home unit, or I don't know.
Blow us away with fractional distillation.
This is your moment to shine.
Yeah. Well, first of all, to be clear, I wish I was Kate Hudson, because I sometimes I'll get those calls. I'm like, I really wish I was Kate Hudson. From Hudson. It doesn't sound quite as good, but I
probably say that too fast whenever I say it.
It really is. Sometimes I do get those phone calls. Can I speak to Kate Hudson? I think you mean Kate from Hudson. Yes, that's me. We're really passionate here at Hudson. I'm really passionate about what we're trying to do. And so we really want to keep educating. We really want folks to understand that there's so much value and it's so important and it's so easy. It's not the recovery and reclamation that happened even 5 years ago, right? When you absolutely would be charged for shipping and for empty cylinders and for hydro and for mixed gas, and because it was a day that ended in a Y and because somebody said, well, I can, right? But that was, in all honesty, that was the reality. And that a lot of, although there was money being paid, there was a lot of charges. And a lot of, at the end of the day, they'd be like, wow, that was worth $10. That now is probably worth $1,000. And it's always amazing when we go and speak at conferences and we're chatting that folks still haven't heard that message. And I say it sometimes, there's about 500,000, we think, technicians out in the field. We've probably spoken to 75,000. I'm looking for the rest of the 425 to really hope that they get their share, because why not, right? Why not?
They seem to be unaware. We're working hard to shout that message with you. So we'd love that message to get out there.
Yeah, and we're really excited about the stuff that we're doing together, really trying to bring, your technology and your capability to make that reporting and regulation and compliance easy, right? Because it's really overlooked. At the same time, too, one thing to do the recovery, the second is to keep the paperwork. And how do you make that as simple and as easy? And we're excited to be sharing that with our customers and doing some of that as well. That, again, it's about the whole ecosystem and finding like-minded partners and like-minded folks who can make fun of you on a webcast, but at the same time, kind of have a common interest in mind. So we're really glad we're working with you guys too.
Yeah, we're excited about that partnership, and it comes back to that, right? Because you have the regulatory component to it, but you're missing the profitability side of it. If you start taking control of your refrigerant inventory, whether it's what you're purchasing and putting into systems or what you're recovering and sending back into reclaim, you will be more profitable.
Yeah.
And that's as simple as that.
On our side, we see it on the recovery side. We see it on the gas they purchase and how much of it gets wasted in heels that aren't properly handled, or walks out the back door with somebody who doesn't have the level of accountability that they should, right? And so, contractors paying $60 a pound or whatever, $70 a pound for 454B right now. I mean, I know these things wildly fluctuate on price, but man, I mean, 2 pounds of that is like it's like $130. I mean, that's a ton of money.
So
I don't take much.
Yeah, and that brings up another question. There's some rules changing on disposable cylinders, right? With the heels and having to go into certain places, space at the specific locations that are certified to take them. I know we're up on it. We're not that tight on time, but I want to just go, hey, what are your thoughts on that? And is Hudson positioned to assist with that?
Yeah, we get a couple of things. It definitely is overlooked. We'll see disposable cylinders that have a heel, and we sometimes just don't understand why, right? Because you should be able to get most of that refrigerant out, and you pay for it. So that's kind of an important element. But yeah, we take back disposables now. The regulation will allow a technician to certify that they recovered it fully. But again, it's a documentation that they're going to need to have and have that responsibility if they want to go that route. To each and every cylinder, have that documentation that I fully recovered all of that out of that, and chose not to send it to a reclaimer or that kind of stuff. So it's an important element, and we really want probably as you're describing the value of refrigerant and the cost. We would really just say simply, think of your refrigerant as an asset and not a liability, right? It's not really, it's a cost center, but it's not a liability. It's really an asset that's about profitability in all aspects of it. And again, it's just a change of mindset. But if you make that change of mindset, then you handle everything in that chain really differently.
Well, and that's that same point really works for what we're talking about with the documentation stream. People think, oh, I have to do this documentation. I have to pay people to sit down and do this paperwork. Well, it's the law, right? But even if you're not going to beat somebody's head over with a stick, ultimately doing a good job of documentation creates the level of accountability on your inventories that turn that into an asset instead of a liability.
Yeah.
Right? You're buying this stuff. It's so expensive. And if you know where it's going, or you're recovering this stuff that's worth money, and if you know where it's going, you're getting the full value out of that material. And so, you're singing from our songbook. We love it. Love it, love it.
Absolutely.
All right. Parting shots, anybody?
Great to see you, Kate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thanks for the invitation. I really appreciate it. It's been a ton of fun.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. I'm Adam.
I'm Wes.
I'm Rodney.
And I'm Kate.
We'll catch you next time on Chill Under Pressure.
Cheers.